Everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And today we're going to be taking ourselves through a beginner's guide to setting up Thinkorswim charts for the very first time. But we are going to also do so much more than that. We're going to start off with the basics, just structuring the chart so it looks like we know what we're doing. Then we're going to move to a more intermediate setup where we're customizing things, and even move to an advanced level of setting up our charts so that we're seeing multiple charts on the same screen or multiple charts across a range of different monitors. It's going to be a lot to cover. I'm looking forward to it. Before we can do that, let me say hello to everybody that's already chatting in from around the country. Hello there, Scott, Eva, Gina, Kevin, Abir, Robert, everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. Always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the fact, enjoy the presentation. But be aware that you're invited to join us in the live discussion. It does kick off promptly 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. And then as a heads up, my very good friend Ken Rose is going to be hanging out in the chats, answering any questions that I can't get to, as long as they're on topic. All right. So thanks for being there for me, Ken. And Ken and I would also like to issue an invitation to you. If you're not following us on X, please do. It's a fabulous resource. It's the best place to connect with me in between these webcasts. So at Ken Rose CS, at Cameron May CS. If you reply to one of my posts on X or on Twitter, I try to reply right back to you. And it just allows for more personalized interaction when there's not a live stream webcast going on. All right, we also need to bear in mind as we dive into these disclosures. This is important information. The information here is for general informational purposes only, should not be considered an individualized recommendation or endorsement of any particular security, chart pattern, or investment strategy. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including the loss of principal. All right, now I saw in the chats as we were launching, somebody's asking, do we need to set up a specific login for Thinkorswim? No, actually, you can download Thinkorswim right from within your Schwab online account. You can also download Thinkorswim from thinkorswim.com, and I am going to be using the downloaded software version of Thinkorswim in today's webcast. But once you've downloaded that to your personal computer, you just use your Schwab username and password. So you should be in familiar territory there. So let's go right to the platform and let's talk about setting up this super powerful tool known as Thinkorswim charts, okay? So as you go to the platform, you find yourself on the monitor tab. This is commonly sort of a landing screen or a landing page. Let's go right over to charts and just start with a blank slate. Okay, we're looking at this through the lens of someone who has never used Thinkorswim before. They're logging in for the first time and they want to get set up. But we also want to take our time to go a little bit more intermediate and even a little bit advanced today. So let's first of all talk about basic setup. First thing that we need to do is chart a symbol, okay? So how about we use for today just to, largest company, well, Microsoft and Apple have been trading off, but one of the biggest companies in the world. Here's Apple. And as I type in that symbol, it brings up a chart. Now, if you're looking at this and you're trying to compare it to maybe your favorite presenter and you're saying, well, this doesn't look exactly like my presenter. Let me show you a few things that might get it looking more like what you want it to look like. Might not be exactly like what you've seen demonstrated, in a video or whatever. Maybe you have personal preferences. But here are some of the things you might want to be aware of. Number one is that you'll see that mine has a white background, and sometimes you'll see Thinkorswim with a black background. You might think you're using different software. No, it's the same software. It's basically just what we call the look and feel settings. So the first thing that we'll do is change the look and feel. If we go up here to the little gear icon, we can go to what are called the application settings and select look and feel. And you'll notice there's a color scheme field here where we can set it from light, where it is right now, to dark. Just like this, so if we apply that, this might be familiar from some of your other webcasts. I prefer in my webcasts to just set it to light. So a little bit of repetition with this. Let's apply that setting, okay? That's number one. Number two is that you'll notice that I have a candle chart that's been applied here. Now, by default, I'm looking at a 1-year daily, so you're seeing a D, candlestick chart. Not everybody prefers a candlestick chart. Some might prefer a line or a bar chart. That's what we know. That's what's known as a chart style. So let me just show you. If you're looking at a line chart, maybe you want to switch it to candle, you can go right up here to style and just go to chart type, and it'll show the current type. So if you have line, it'll say line here. Mine's candle, so it's showing candle. And let's say we're just switching it to candle. Starting to look a lot like what you're seeing maybe on a lot of these webcasts that you're viewing on YouTube. Third, how about that time frame? Yes, by default, I'm looking at a 1 year daily chart. Not everybody has a preference for trading from specifically that time frame, or they might just look at multiple time frames. Maybe they look at an hourly chart and a daily chart and a weekly chart before they make a trading decision. So to change the time frame, you just go right up here to the little tab right next to the gear icon, the chart settings icon, but our time frame setup icon. If we click on that, we have multiple time frames to choose from in a favorites list, from a 1 minute chart all the way out to a 3 year weekly chart. So if I wanted to see intraday activity, I could choose 1 minute. If I wanted to see multiple years at a time, I could choose 3 years, or I can even choose custom time frames. Intraday, choosing different time intervals, and aggregation periods. That's a fancy way of saying how long is each candle. Okay, so for example, if I'm looking at let's say a 5-day chart, and I choose as my aggregation period 5 minutes, that means each candle represents 5 minutes. Click OK, and we've changed that time frame again. So let's switch this back. Let's switch it back using our favorites menu to that 1 year daily. So that's how we set the time frame. So we've already set the color, we've set the type of chart, the time frame of the chart. With some traders, they also like to have a little extra space off here to the right of the chart, so that if they're applying, let's say, drawings, things like that, they can project out into the future. If we come right down here to the bottom, you'll see a little double-headed arrow icon. This is our right expansions setting icon. If I click on that, I can change how far we expand out to the right. Right now, our price is butting right into that right margin. So if we change that expansion area, let's say we put in the number 10. What this is doing is it's going to give us 10 bars to the right. And in this case, since we're using daily bars, it's going to show us 10 extra days out there to the right. I guess I ought to go this way so that everybody sees it the right direction on their reversed view on YouTube, right? But let me click apply, and let's click OK. And you can see there's that extra space there where we can now make drawings that extend out into the future. We can also see upcoming events. Now, speaking of drawings and events, we're going to talk about how to customize the chart so that we have those things there in just a moment. Now, there are other times where we want to make a temporary customization to the chart, or maybe viewing, zooming in on a specific period of time, or giving ourselves more space at the top or the bottom of the chart. So to zoom in on the chart, we can click the little magnifying glass icon down in the lower right, just zoom in using that, and you'll notice that's zooming into the far right of the chart. Or we can now click the magnifying glass with the negative or the minus sign in it, and it zooms back out. Another way to zoom is to just perform a click and drag. Click on the chart, drag to the right. That's going to highlight a specific area of time on the chart. And when we release that click, it's going to zoom in on that time frame. And then to zoom back out, I can just use that same zoom out icon down in the lower right. Zoom out. Another thing that I could do is just double click on the chart. That'll take us right back to square one. Now, we can also buy ourselves more space on the chart at the top or the bottom by clicking and dragging this right column. Notice as I click and drag that on the right, it's expanding and contracting the vertical size of the chart. And then just to set it back to where it was, we can double click, or we can use this little icon up here in the upper right. Click on this, go to auto, and we're back to just the default. Okay. So already covering a lot of the functions and features to allow us to set up our chart maybe the way that we prefer it. Let's do a couple of other quick things. Let's add some corporate events. Let's add some volume to the chart. maybe some studies to the chart, and we'll wrap it up with some drawings. And then we're going to move from basic to a little bit more intermediate. Okay. So our corporate events. What is a corporate event? Well, or a corporate action, not a corporate event, but an action. That's an action that a corporation takes that might impact the value or the quantity of its shares. So, for example, a stock split or a dividend, those kinds of things. So I'm going to click on the little chart settings icon right up here. And this allows us to customize our charts. And one thing that I want to add to this, I'm going to go to the Equities tab and check the box for Show Corporate Actions. Go into Equities because this is a stock action. Equities is another word for stocks, basically. And I'm going to click the box for Show Corporate Actions. As I click Apply and click OK, you'll now see that we have these icons down at the bottom. Blue and red are earnings announcements, green, dividends. So now I can see not only historical events or corporate actions that have been taken, but anything that's on the calendar in the future now that I've added that extra space. I can see that before it actually happens. Jerry asked a great question. Jerry says, what's the reasoning for leaving the green candles hollow? Jerry, that's actually something I want to address in our little bit more intermediate discussion. Okay, so we've added our corporate events. Using that same gear icon, some traders like to see the volume down at the bottom of their chart so they can see if price action is happening on comparatively heavier or lighter volume. That's one of the chart settings as well. So we can go up to chart settings and go to equities again and check that box for show volume subgraph. And as I click apply there, you can see these histogram bars showing basically in a visual representation how much volume we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. So on Apple, some pretty heavy volume last Friday. And so far today, looking like about average for volume. So if you're wondering how to add volume to thinkorswim, that's how it's done. Now, a couple of final things that I want to do with the basic setup here. Let's look at adding technical studies or technical indicators. Chartists, pretty famous for using indicators for with their trading. Trend indicators, oscillators. If there's an indicator out there, it's very likely found right here on thinkorswim. There are hundreds to choose from, and all of those can be found under this flask icon called Studies. So if I click on the Edit Studies icon, here's a menu in alphabetical order of all those indicators. And if we know the name of an indicator, how about for today's discussion, we add just possibly the most commonly used technical indicator that there is. It's known as a simple moving average. And we've discussed this in previous webcasts. But I could go down in alphabetical order and select that indicator, or I can just start to do a keyword search. I could type in simple if I want to type out the full simple moving average. But as we start to type, it's going to narrow it down to just those in the menu that have the letters that we've used. Let's add that to our chart. Click apply, click OK, and now I have a volume field down at the bottom. I can see my corporate actions. We have our moving average. Yes, I can add other indicators as the trader sees fit. But really, this is starting to look very much like maybe other charts that you've seen demonstrated on YouTube. Now, the final thing that I wanted to talk about are drawings, lines and ovals and text notes and all those kinds of things. Drawings can be found in a couple of places. You can find them up here, or you can find them down here. This one is just a one-click function. If we click on the active tool icon down here, we can just choose from the available drawings. For example, let's choose a trend line. Click on that, and I can start to draw just by clicking once, draw a line, click again to end the line. Now, by default, let me just edit the properties of this line. Most of you are going to see the line by default just looking like that, a thin black line. As you've noted, as we transition now, some people like to customize things. Let's talk about some more of the intermediate functions on thinkorswim. If we like to customize drawings, we can right-click on a completed drawing and edit its properties and do a number of things like change the color, change the style or the appearance, change the thickness. And if we want to, let's say we want this to be blue, dashed, and a 5 out of 5 thickness, we could actually save that as the default drawing so that from now on, whenever I make a drawing, it looks like that one. and that's it. We don't need to save anything. Now, once you've made all these basic changes, you might think, what do I click on to save all of this? Actually, nope. However we set up our charts, future charts will use those same features. Like if I switch over here to forward, look at that. It still has a moving average. It still has the corporate actions. It still has the volume. Still has a space off to the right. Other symbols will use the same setup. And if we close down thinkorswim and come back to it, it'll still be this setup. Okay. Now, let's talk about some more of the intermediate functions of thinkorswim. We've already talked about customizing drawings. Some traders like to customize, let's say, their time frames. So if I come up here, I have this favorites list with a list of example time frames, but we can customize this list. Maybe we're never using this 180-day or the 6-month, 4-hour view. Just delete it. And maybe there's a preferred view that we like to use. Let's say that our trader is using a 5-year chart commonly. That's a weekly setup. We can just add that to our list. And then just click apply and click OK. And so from now on, with our time frames, we no longer have the time frames we're not using, and we have the time frames that we actually are using. All right, so our setup is starting to feel more like the way that we prefer it. Now, some options traders also like to have something on their chart that shows them when options expiration events are approaching. So one of these settings that can be established on our chart, click on the little gear icon, we can go to the time axis, expiration, and check the box for show expiration Friday. Now, notice I'm getting a little bit more intermediate, tilting toward advanced. For some that are watching this video or this webcast, you're thinking, well, this is a little bit too much for it. That's okay. I just wanted to show initially, how could we set this up with the basics so that the new trader is feeling pretty comfortable with the navigation and the setup of thinkorswim, and then we get a little bit more advanced. Another nice thing is this webcast is scheduled to be recorded and archived unless we hit some technical glitch, so you can go back and watch it again. Let's apply that, and now we can see these red dashed vertical lines that indicate for an option trader when their monthly expirations are approaching. Okay. A third thing is that some traders like to customize their indicators. So by default, as I applied a simple moving average, and I have this green line, let me go up here to my edit studies icon again, and this will allow me to see there's our simple moving average, and you'll notice it defaulted to 9, in this case, days. We're looking at a daily chart. It's using 9 days worth of data to construct that moving average. For some, that may be an appropriate moving average. For others, maybe they want to slow it down. Generally speaking, with customizations of technical indicators, if we want to slow something down, we use a bigger number. So for example, let's go over here to our little gear icon, which allows us to customize this moving average. And let's type in the number 50, taking it from 9 to 50. Instead of using 9 days worth of data, it's now going to be using 50 days worth of data. So it's going to be much less sensitive to a new day worth of data. New day is only going to have about a 2% impact. Let me click OK, roughly. Okay. Let me click OK and click apply. And now we've further customized our chart setup where we have a 50-day moving average applied. Right now, as we make these customizations, sometimes, we just don't like to have to repeat our setups. Or maybe there are going to be times when we like to use a 1-day chart with the volume applied, with the corporate event setup, and other times maybe we're using a 6-month chart with no volume. All of those functions, those chart customizations that we made, are known as a chart style. Let's say that I want to save this chart style. Let's say it's going to be a 1-year chart with volume applied, with candles, and with all those little things that we changed. Okay. To save that, I can go up to Style and save that style. So how about we let's call this one Basic with volume. Let's click Save. And then the next time, if I were to change let's say I get rid of or let's go to a different chart. Let's go to General Electric just to make a clear division from what we were doing or what we were doing previously. And let's take off some of these features. Let's take off maybe the expiration Friday. Let's apply that. Let's take off the corporate actions, take off the volume. So what you'll notice now is we have a much more basic chart. And you think, oh, wait, I want to go put those things back on for whatever I'm doing now. Well, I could actually now just go back up to style, go to load style, and there's basic with volume. And look what it just did. It added in all of those customizations that we had made. So it allows us to switch around, set up different setups as we see fit. Maybe for some stocks, we trade them in one way. Other stocks, we trade them in another way, and we have different styles or different approaches, a line chart for these, a candlestick chart for those. Some traders like to save those custom templates, okay? And we can do the same thing if we are setting up multiple studies. So for example, if we have a moving average and we've added to that, let's say we've added a MACD histogram, add that to our chart. Click apply, click OK. So now we have a study or a set of studies, a moving average and a MACD histogram. Well, with that, I can save my studies. Let's save a study set. Simple moving average with MACD. Click save. And now if I've switched up my studies, let's delete those two. And I want to bring them back. I can just go up to studies and load that study set. Simple moving average with MACD. So for some of our beginners here, they're probably thinking, you know what? I'd prefer to just stay with the basic setup. This is getting a little bit advanced for me. That's okay. I just wanted to include some of these more advanced functions. Now, finally, there are going to be those who want multiple charts, or maybe even multiple charts on multiple monitors doing different functions. That sounds like a lot. It's actually, even though it's a little bit more advanced, pretty straightforward. If I want multiple charts, but on the same screen, I can come right up here to grid and choose different layouts. Let's say I wanted 4 charts. See what I did there on the grid? Just chose 4. And then it gives me 4 charts that I can set up however I like, independently from one another. Let's go back up here and set this back to 1. Or maybe I want individual windows. To do that, I can just come up here to the right and click on detach. That's actually going to pop out my chart and let it function as a new window. Look at that. I could now move this over to my side screen if I wanted to and load up a different stock and look at multiple stocks on multiple screens. You'll even see it down here in your navigation menu at the bottom, different windows. Okay? Yeah, nifty stuff. I'm glad somebody's saying great stuff. Glad you're appreciating this. I knew this was going to be a lot. That's why we start slow, go with the basics, then get a little bit more intermediate, a little bit more advanced. If you're enjoying this kind of stuff, I've accomplished what I set out to do today. Basic, intermediate, advanced navigation or setup of thinkorswim charts. But a couple of other resources that I would definitely suggest you take advantage of. Number one, be sure to follow me and Ken on X, on Twitter. So at Ken Rose CS, at Cameron May CS, you can see my handle right there on your screen. It's a great resource not everybody takes advantage of. It doesn't cost anything. And also make sure that you've subscribed to the Trader Talks channel. It allows you to follow the live streams. You can find the archives for our completed webcasts. Just click on subscribe. You can click on subscribe down below the display screen right now, or you can find it on our channel page and click subscribe if you haven't done that already. Okay, this doesn't cost anything as well. Another great resource. But everybody, thanks for being here today. I'm going to do a quick refresh over on my side screen so I can see. Look at that. Already 24 people have clicked the like button. Thank you. To me, that sounds like applause. If you want to click like, that's always appreciated. I'm talking to those who are watching live. And those who are watching the archive after the fact, hope you enjoyed the presentation. But it is time for me to set you loose. We've done a basic setup, got into some more intermediate customization features, and then even explored an advanced scenario where we're looking at multiple charts on a single screen or multiple charts across a range of monitors. Lots that's available on thinkorswim. Everybody, go enjoy the rest of our educational offerings. Liz Ann Live is coming up next. I'll look for you again next week. I'll also look for you on Twitter, but whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.